Hello, BookTube. I have some new arrivals I thought we'd go over together. Books that have arrived and that I have opened off camera that are either out now or are coming out soon or maybe are further down the line that may be of as much or more interest to you than they are to me, some of them. They aren't things that we've seen on this channel, I don't think, or maybe one or two are finished copies of things we've already seen. I thought we'd go through just a discrete little list here and see. A number of you have emailed me over the course of the year and said that you like this, that the more we talk about new and forthcoming books, the better you like it, the more informed you can be. So let's start off with this wee sleek thing. This is by Jay Carmichael, and it is called Marlow. It's a little novella called Marlow. I'm running out of light here. The day is rapidly darkening. It's the 1950s in conservative Australia, and Christopher, a young gay man, moves to the city to escape the repressive atmosphere of his tiny hometown. Once there, however, he finds out it is just as sensorial and punitive in its own way. Then Christopher meets Morgan, and the two fall in love, a love that breathes truth back into Christopher's stifled life. But the society around them remains unyielding, and what begins as a refuge for both men inevitably buckles under the intensity of navigating a world that wants them to refuse what they are. In reviving a time that is still so recent yet so vastly different from now, Jay Carmichael has drawn on archival material, snippets of newspaper articles, and photos to create the claustrophobic environments in which these two men lived and tried to love. Told with an ear for sparse, poetic beauty, Marlow takes us into the heartbreaking landscape of a relationship defined as much by what is said and shared as by what has to remain unsaid and unlived. Okay, I wonder, are photos included? Or did the author just consult them? Yeah, no, there's a photo in here, at least one. I blew right past it. I'll never be able to find it again. Well, there's at least one. Okay, well, I don't have any kind of meta information on this, but this is a finished copy. This is $15 from Scribe. So this is probably out already. I don't have a date on it. I need to get to it right away, obviously, since I haven't done that. Then we have another one of these Thames and Hudson art books. The last one we had, a lot of you really liked the look of it. And this one looks just as good. This is what I mean, these World of Art books. They all look like this. They have the uniform white spine. This is on Velasquez. And they are, in most cases that I have seen, not only a wonderful... They're full-color illustrations all throughout. It's not just an inset in the middle of the book. It's full-color illustrations, not only of the title artist, but of anything that might have had influence on the title artist or echo the title artist. It's not only that, though. A lot of times these things have a great deal of biography in them, so that they really can stand as a wonderful all-purpose volume on your shelf about this artist, whatever artist. So we're talking this time around. This comes out in March. So it's not for a while that you'll be able to see this in bookstores. This is going to be a paperback original at $25, but as we mentioned with the last one, that's not bad for what you're getting. And this is about Diego Velasquez, who was born in 1599 and died in 1660. He has long occupied a distinctive position in the history of Western art, both for his outstanding achievements as a painter and for being centuries ahead of his time. Renowned for his dazzling technical dexterity, he combines virtuosity and mystery. In the candor and sobriety of his portraits are the seeds of 19th century realism. In the freedom and spontaneity of his brushwork, those of impressionism, while the optical concerns of his paintings already anticipate the advent of the camera. So, this comes out next year in March, but it's everything that you could possibly want on this artist. I mean, I'm a big fan of artist biographies, but it comes down to the artwork, and this is a very handy thing, whereas your typical Velasquez book that had plates like this would be big. It would be unwieldy. You couldn't, for instance, take it to bed and just savor the artwork at length. This next one is by Shahan Mufti. I think this is one of the ones that we've already seen. This is just a finished copy of something that I believe comes out in December. No, late November, November 22nd, so 10 days from now. This is American Caliph, the true story of Muslim mystic, a Hollywood epic, and the 1977 siege of Washington, D.C. And we go over this again for those of you who missed it the first time. I don't know what I'm going to do with the dodgy light. We'd better hurry. In this book, journalist Mufti tells the story of Hamas Abdul Khalis, the leader of the Hanafi movement, a black Muslim group that laid siege and took hostage in 3 separate buildings in Washington, D.C. over the course of 2 tense days in March of 1977. In order to tell this story in its many facets, the author sympathetically traces his subject's life, from his early days as a touring jazz drummer through his affiliation with and then acrimonious split from the Nation of Islam, and his establishment, with the support of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, of the Hanafi's headquarters in D.C. The author also tells the dramatic story of the making of Muhammad, Messenger of God, which was ultimately completed in Libya and bankrolled by Muammar Gaddafi, and gives us an in-depth, hour-by-hour account of the standoff in 1977. So this comes out soon, and I haven't read it. I'm glad to have the finished copy. I will let that function as a kind of kick in the pants. What are you doing up there, baby? No, stop licking. She gets into a licking zen. It's been bothering her lately. Let's see here. Okay, this next one is also next year. This is March. This is the new Donna Leon. So Shall You Reap. An Inspector Brunetti mystery. Good. I'm a big fan of this series. It can go on forever as far as I'm concerned. I love it. What is... no reason to show you the cover, since this is not what it will look like. It will be very ornate. It's just not done yet. This doesn't come out for a while. Let's see here. What have we got here? It's a cold November evening when Guido Brunetti receives an alert from his colleague. A hand has been sighted floating in one of Venice's canals. With the body found, the commissario sets off to investigate the murder of an undocumented Sri Lankan immigrant. Lacking any official record of the man's presence in Venice, Brunetti relies on the city's far richer source of information, gossip, and the memories of the victim's acquaintances. Curiously, he had been living in a garden house on a palazzo owned by a university professor. Then Brunetti discovered books revealing the victim's interest in Buddhism, the revolutionary Tamil Tigers, and the last crop of Italian political terrorists active in the 1980s. Okay. It's just an endless number of blurbs here. Everyone loves this series. I do too. I have praised this. I wonder if one of my generic blurbs is on here. If the Christian Science Monitor is on here, then I would be. Or no, I don't remember the last time I praised this. It might have been for the Washington Post. I don't see it on there. But that's okay. That's okay. I'm all for it, but I don't, a new Donna Leon, I'm not even going to think about it until the new year. Then we have, let's see, what else do we have here? A pile of stuff. Oh, yes, this thing. Okay, this looks very interesting. I think this is next year as well. No, this is December. This is coming out in December of this year. And it is a paperback original at $23. And this is called Things We Found When the Water Went Down. It's a novel by Tegan Nia Swanson. How's that for a cover? Huh. Let's see here. And it is the author's debut. When brutish miner Hugo Mitchum is found murdered on the frozen shore of a North Country lake, the local officials and town gossips are quick to blame Marietta Abernathy, outspoken environmental activist and angry witchy recluse. But Marietta herself has disappeared under mysterious circumstances. Living on an isolated island with her father, Marietta's 16-year-old daughter Lena begins sifting through her mother's journals and collected oddities in an attempt to find her. While her father's grief threatens to consume him and her adoptive Aunt B reckons with guilt and acceptance, it is the haunting town outcast Ellis Olsen who might have the most to lose if Lena fails to find her mother. A Nordic eco-noir shot through with magical realism. This book examines power, identity, and myth in a story that asks us to explore what it means to heal or not after violence. Okay, it's coming out soon, and it's a paperback original, so there's no reason to wait for the hardcover. I wonder what that magical realism is going to be like. I'll have to find out. This thing also has artwork in it. This is going to be a weird book, I think. All right, that'll be this weekend, probably. Then we have Ted Conover, who wrote a book called New Jack that was really good. I strongly recommend it. This is his new book, which I don't have a sheet on this. It might be out already. This is called Cheap Land, Colorado, Off-Gridders at America's Edge. Cheap Land, Colorado. And I don't have a sheet, so we'll just read from the dust jacket. In May of 2017, Ted Conover went to Colorado to explore firsthand a rural way of life that is about living cheaply on your own land and keeping clear of the mainstream. The failed subdivisions of the enormous San Luis Valley make this possible. 5-acre lots on the high prairie can be had for $5,000, sometimes less. But along with independence and stunning views come fierce winds, neighbors with criminal pasts, and minimal government and medical services. I don't know many Americans who wouldn't trade that in a heartbeat. Conover volunteered for a local group trying to prevent homelessness during the bitter winters. He encountered an unexpected diversity: veterans with PTSD, families homeschooling, addicts young and old, gay people, people of color, lovers of guns and marijuana, people with social anxiety, most of them spurning charity and aiming and sometimes failing to be self-sufficient. And more than a few predicting they'll be the last ones standing when society collapses. I already know that I like this author. I basically, if he thinks that a story is worth the time and effort of him to research it, live it, and then write it, then I'm going to read it. I just don't have a date on it. That's all. This next one I have been looking forward to. I think, I don't have a date on this either, but I'm pretty sure this is a December release. Disastrous time for a serious book, but I read all about this when it was released in the UK. And it's finally getting an American release. This is Malcolm Gaskell's book, The Ruin of All Witches. Life and Death in the New World. Hideous cover, but it's about New England witchcraft. And once again, we'll just read from the dust jacket here, if I can. The light is fading here. In Springfield, Massachusetts in 1651, peculiar things begin to happen. Precious food spoils, livestock ails, property vanishes, and people suffer convulsions as if possessed by demons. A woman is seen wading through the swamp like a lost soul. Disturbing dreams and visions proliferate. Children sicken and die. As tension rises, rumors spread of witches and heretics, and the community becomes tangled in a web of distrust, resentment, and denunciation. The finger of suspicion falls on a young couple with 2 small children, the prickly brickmaker Hugh Parsons and his troubled wife Mary. Drawing on rich, previously unexplored source material, Malcolm Gaskell vividly evokes a strange past, one where lives were steeped in the divine and the diabolic, in omens, curses, and enchantments. This book captures an entire society caught in the agonized transition between superstition and enlightenment, tradition and innovation. The Ruin of All Witches, somewhere here at Hyde Cottage. I have all of the reviews that I read from UK Press that I clipped out. I think I got, I definitely got the TLS and London Review, but there were also a couple of other glossy UK magazines that I got at the old Barnes & Noble Prudential that had reviews of this book, one at length, and I have them here somewhere that are going to go in this book. And then we have the new novel by John Banville, The Singularities. Banville, like Cormac McCarthy, is disastrously late in life curious about quantum mechanics and has decided that rather than simply go down a rabbit hole on YouTube, they're going to work it into their novels, even though they're, doddering old grandfathers and really have no grounds to do that. They're not called to do it. They're just bored. Don't have a sheet for this, but let's just read it. It's a pretty thing, a nice squat thing with the deckled edges. A man with a borrowed name steps from a flashy red sports car, also borrowed, onto the estate of his youth. But all is not as it seems. There is a new family living in the drafty old house, the Godleys, descendants of the late world-famous scientist Adam Godley, whose theory of existence threw the universe into chaos. And this mystery man, who has just completed a prison sentence, feels as if the time has stopped, or was torn, or was opened in new and strange ways. He must now vie with the idiosyncratic Godley family, with their harried housekeeper, who becomes his landlady, and with the recently commissioned biographer of Godley Sr., and with a wealthy and beautiful woman from his past who comes bearing an unusual request. This is out already. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost positive this is out already, and I have not got to it, which is shameful. We saw the advance copy. I think we saw the advance copy on this channel. Maybe I opened that off camera too, but I haven't read it yet, and that cannot be. That absolutely cannot be. And then we'll finish up with a great big biography. getting a few late entries. I thought that the autumn would be absolutely full of great big biographies, and it absolutely has not been. My own favorite genre, really taking a beating in 2022. But we have this one, and this is late November. So this is the last week in November that this comes out. This is by Alison Bashford, and it's a biography of the Huxleys. Mainly two Huxleys. Those are not the two Huxleys. Those are one of them. That's Julian Huxley. But also Thomas Huxley, the Darwin's bulldog. We have a description here. This comes out later this month, the Huxleys. I don't want to block the baby. It's a fairly hefty thing, though. I'll definitely take it. Like its titular namesakes, this book is without peer. It will be the book on the Huxleys for years to come. But who were they, and why should we read about their lives? The elder Huxley, Thomas Henry, was a mid-19th century natural historian and Charles Darwin's most vocal spokesman. His grandson, Julian, was a famous mid-century science writer, zoologist, and conservationist. Between them, these two Huxleys communicated to the world the theory of evolution by natural selection. Together they were, quote, the trustees of evolution, a phrase that Julian Huxley often used to describe all of humankind, but which Alison Bashford uses to describe the Huxleys themselves. A generational biography, this is a brilliant, ambitious history of the scientific, intellectual, political, and personal lives and times of a grandfather and grandson who were both remarkable and tortured. So, this also goes, I have the new Penguin Classic hardcover of Ovid's Metamorphoses. That goes on the list really soon. The John Banford does as well. And this as well. This is a major thing. I'm going to have to dig into this. And it's going to take some time because I don't really know all that much about the Huxleys, biographically speaking. So I'm going to be clawing along in the book, not rather than sailing along the way I was with, for instance, that new biography of Nero. But anyway, there are some new arrivals. We will block the bean, scandalous though it is. We have the Huxleys. We have the Singularities by John Banville. We have the Ruin of All Witches, at long last in America. We have Cheap Land, Colorado. Would you sell everything and buy 5 acres of land for $5,000 even though you had nothing? No pump, no ambulance at your beck and call. Things we found when the water went down. A Nordic eco-noir with magical realism. Very interesting. The new Donna Leon. Those of you who are fans will not need any urging to get the new Donna Leon. American Caliph, the finished copy. A new World of Art book. This one on Velasquez. It'll have all of his paintings in color. They won't be huge, but they'll all be there. And Marlow, a slim gay novella about what it's like to be gay when you can't be. When and where you absolutely can't be. What do you do on a circumstance like that? A pretty interesting mix. I'm hoping that some of these were of interest to you. I'm hoping that's the whole point of these new arrivals. Let me know, and I will wrap this up for now, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.